We are live. There we go. Okay, today is 3/15/21. March 15th. It's called the Ides of March. And I don't know if you guys know that. Hopefully you'll learn that in English today. The Ides of March is where Augustus Caesar, 3,000 years ago, was killed by his own party. So it's supposed to be a bad day in history. It's also the day that the state of Maine got its independence, but back in the early 1800s, they didn't want Maine coming into the Union because the southern slave states didn't want an extra northern state to come into the Union. So there was a real battle to make Maine a state. Anyway, a little history. Back to math, huh? Okay, so our objective today is solving radicals. And I don't care if you guys know these words, but radical is a math word for a root. Whether it's a square root or a cube root or whatever it is, okay? So I know whenever I do any kind of solving, I always undo it. I always undo it by doing the opposite, right? I have to be careful though, because I cannot have square root of negative numbers. We want real answers, not imaginary, okay? We do not want imaginary answers, so we'll throw out any answers that don't work. So first of all, in example 1, what I have to do is I really need to solve this. So I'm going to undo it by squaring it. Does that make sense? But what you do to one side, you have to do the other side. So if I square my square root, then it just cancels it out. And then I'm going to have an x minus 4 equals, well, 12 squared is 144, okay? Thumbs up so far? Yeah. And then I'm going to go just finish up and go plus 4, and I'll have x equals 148. Okay, now it says check answers, so if my answer works, I should be able to plug it into the original, and it should give me an answer of 12. Okay, so if I plug my answer into here, and I'm just going to check it on my calculator. The only time I really check is if I have negatives, but I'm just going to check this one here. So if I go square root of my 148, subtract 4, what do you think I get? 12. Okay, so that's a good answer. You guys agree? That's a good answer. Okay, now number 2 is very similar. Okay, cube roots can equal negatives. This is okay. This negative here is okay. It would not be okay if it was a square root, because square roots can't equal negatives. But cube roots, it's going to be okay to equal negatives. So same thing, I'm going to undo it by doing the opposite. So the opposite of a cube root would be to take the cube of both sides. Okay, I'm just going to undo it by doing the opposite. So I'm going to go the cube root of x cubed, and so they cancel. I'm left with a 2x plus 1 equals negative 3 cubed, which is negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, which is a negative 27, right? And then I'm just going to keep solving there. Minus 1, 2x equals negative 28. Divide by 2, and I get a negative 14. Okay, and again, I can check this answer. You don't need to check all of it, but I'm going to check it anyway. Math. I've got a cube root button in my calculator. It's just kind of snazzy. 2 times my negative 14 plus 1. What does that equal? Hopefully negative 3. Boom, there it is. So my answer works, doesn't it? Good. Just checking my answers. All right. So example 3 isn't any more difficult. Actually, example 3 is not hard, but we just have to be careful. This is really important that you guys know. Get rid of all the extra numbers first. Does that make sense? Before you square it, get rid of all these extra numbers floating around, just to simplify it. So let's go minus 6 first. So 3 square roots of x plus 3 equals 12, right? Divide by 3, square root of x plus 3 equals 4. How am I doing, okay? I'm going to undo the square root by squaring both sides, right? because my square will cancel out the square root. I'll get an x plus 3 equals 16. I'll go minus 3x equals 13. Okay, so if that's the right answer, I should be able to plug it in. Again, checking, there's going to come a point on the next page where the checking is really important. 3 times 13 plus 3 plus 6, and I should get an answer of 18. Boom, I do. Okay, so it's working. Okay, so my answers are good. Okay, number 4. It's a trick question. You cannot have an even root equal to I already know, and I'm going to do this with you, and then we're going to check it, but I already know this. The answer is no solution, okay? And I'm going to show you by checking it. But first of all, you cannot take an even root and get a negative answer, okay? It can't happen. But let me solve it anyway. Let's just say I don't know any better. So, Mr. Davies, like, okay, all right, whatever. Just going to go through this. 4 through, and I get x plus 3 equals negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5 is a positive 625. Minus 3, 622, right? So if I check my answer, I go the 4th root of 622 plus 3. Will I get a negative 5? No. Right? No, I got a 5, not a negative 5. And it can't happen. So what do we put for this answer? No solution. Okay, does that make sense? Any even root, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Again, I'm going to say it. A negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, I'm going to say it again. A negative times a negative is a positive. It's not a negative. Does that make a little bit of sense? Okay, good. Now, odds, that'll work. All right, now, example 5. Here comes the fun stuff. Okay, example 5. Well, I'm going to square both sides to get rid of the square root, okay? Now, this is not x squared minus 49. This is not. Because what it really is x minus 7 times x minus 7, okay? It is not x squared minus 49. Because it really is an x minus 7 quantity squared, which means you multiply it to itself. Okay, well, let's see. That becomes x times x minus 7x minus another 7x plus 49 equals x minus 5. Oh, I think we did this problem in the warm-up. Let me keep going with this, okay? I think I did that on purpose, huh? X squared minus 14x plus 49 equals x minus 5, right? Does that look familiar? We did that one, didn't we? You guys remember doing that one in the warm-up? Yep. And then I need to set it equal to 0. Set equal to 0. So I can solve it. So I'm going to go minus x plus 5 plus 5. And I'll have an x squared minus 15x plus 54. And of course, Tony, you know exactly what the multiples are. What times what makes 54?
9 and 6.
You are a genius. Perfectly said. X minus 9, x minus 6, right? And I get an answer of x equals 9 and x equals 6. You guys don't need me to do the many equations, do you? No, I mean, this is algebra 2, right? Now, here's the thing. Believe it or not, 9 will not work. No, 6 will not work. How do I know 6 will not work? Just looking at it, how do I know 6 will not work? Because anybody see that we're going to throw out the 6? Let's look at the original. The original is an x minus 7 equals the square root of x minus 5. And I'm going to prove to you why The 6 does not work. Does anybody see why the 6 doesn't work before I even start? What's wrong with the 6? Right there. What's wrong with the 6? If I put the 6 right there, what happens? It's a negative, right? So let me prove to you real quickly, put in my calculator. If I put in the 6, right, I know if I put it in, I'll go 6 into here, and all the negative 1 equals the square root of 6 minus 5. And then what I get is negative 1 is equal to 1. That's not true, is it? So you have to be careful. I'm going to throw out the 6. The 9 does work. You put in the 9, you get 2. You put in the 9 here, and you get the square root of 4, which is 2. The 9 does work. So you get the 9 minus 7 equals the square root of 9 minus 5. That will work. So we throw out the 6 and only keep the 9. Okay? Now 6 is a little bit trickier, but it's just going to be a inequality sign. So let's go ahead and solve square. Square. And I'm going to get an x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 25, right? Minus 3, x is greater than or equal to 22. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, 22 is an answer, but so is 23, so is 24, so is 25. 25 is an answer. 26, 100 is an answer, right? Because it's greater. In fact, if I put 100 in here, that'd be greater than 5. If I put 1,000 in here, that'd be greater than 5, right? So it's all of these answers. But this one's a little bit trickier. The problem with this one, this is our hard one. Let's see if we can be smart about it. This cannot be negative. So before you even start this problem, I'm going to say that x needs to be greater than or equal to negative 3. Okay, I'm going to highlight that. Okay? Before I even start this problem. Now, if x were negative 3, if I plugged in negative 3 right here, I'd get 0, right? But if I plugged in negative 4, what if I plugged in negative 4? Negative 4 right here. What's going to happen if that's negative 4? What's negative 4 plus 3? Can you take the square root of negative 1? Not really, not unless we're talking about i's. I mean, the square root of negative 1, right? Won't work. So we've got to make sure before we even start this problem that our values in this problem are going to keep what's inside this square root positive, okay? Now we're going to solve it. Square both sides, square both sides. Okay, kind of x plus 3 is less than or equal to 25. Minus 3, x is less than or equal to 22. So this problem has only a certain set of numbers that'll work. We know that it's got to be bigger than negative 3, but less than or equal to 22. Any number in between negative 3 and 22 will work. Any number bigger than 22 will not work. Any number smaller than negative 3 will not work. And that's what makes this one a little bit hard, okay? Okay, let me go ahead and stop my recording. Homework today. So in your journal, remember, right, I only want you to do part of this, okay? I think I want you to do the odds. Let's go to, I should write this down. And we have time actually I can help you, which is kind of nice, isn't it? I think I want you to do the odds. Yeah, so page, I think it's 125. I want you to do 1 through 11 odd. Yeah. And then we'll pick up number 13 as the extra, okay? So homework, page 125, 1 through 11 odd, and the extra is number 13, okay? All right, let's go ahead and see if we can get some of that done in class, all right?